Hey everyone, Dan with MacRumors, and lately there have been a few Windows laptops out there that have piqued my interest. There are some laptops with cool and innovative designs or features that sort of get me excited enough to try them out and see if it's possible to lure me away from the Apple ecosystem and, more importantly, take me away from macOS, which I've been using daily for well over 10 years now. The Razer Blade Stealth is one of those laptops that has garnered my attention, and I've spent the last few days with the new 2019 model. So in this video, we're going to go over my overall first impressions and compare it to some of the latest offerings from Apple. The Razer Blade Stealth is a 13-inch ultrabook, which means it packs some serious performance while keeping a small and compact form factor. Now, as far as MacBooks go, I don't really have a 13-inch MacBook Pro to do a one-on-one comparison with, but instead we're going to use the 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro. With that said, starting off with the design of the Razer Blade Stealth on the outside, we have a very similar design to the MacBook Pro. Maybe not so much in terms of literal look, but the overall aesthetic and theme is very similar. Razer went with a minimal approach, using a precision CNC machined unibody device made up of mostly aluminum and this cool anodized black color that's very sleek. Razer even removed the RGB logo on the top and replaced it with a tone-on-tone style logo, which makes me take this laptop a bit more serious as a productivity machine and not just a laptop for gamers. As far as ports go, on the left-hand side you have one USB-C and one USB Type-A port available, as well as a 3.5mm headphone jack. And on the right side, there is an additional USB-C and USB Type-A port. I'm a bit torn with this layout because when Apple initially went all USB-C in its laptops and everyone was forced to use those dongles to even get a standard USB Type-A port, I was clearly not happy. Now that this has been the norm over the last few years, I find myself wishing the Razer Blade Stealth had a couple more USB Type-C ports available. I still think that Apple should incorporate on their MacBooks at least one USB Type-A port until USB-C truly becomes standard across all devices and accessories. So one thing to note, however, the Razer Blade Stealth only has one Thunderbolt 3 capable USB-C port, which is the one located on the right-hand side. The USB-C connection on the left is capable of charging your laptop, however. It would have been nice if both of these USB-C ports were Thunderbolt 3 capable, a luxury that you do get with all four USB-C ports on the MacBook Pro. As far as the display goes, the Razer Blade Stealth comes in two options, both at 13 inches, with this sleek bezel-less design, but one at 1080p and the other with a 4K panel. The model that we have here is the 4K version, which sounds nice and is definitely a great looking display, but at 13 inches, it's probably a bit overkill. I'd probably save the money and go with the 1080p version. Either way, you get this beautiful touch-sensitive display with a very narrow side bezel that gives it a more modern look compared to that of the MacBook Pro. Now, I still think the Retina displays found on the MacBook Pros are really, really good, and although they're not true 4K panels, there's really no difference in quality in my eyes. They both look crisp and vibrant. The keyboard on the Stealth is also very nice. There's a lot more key travel compared to the butterfly keys found on the MacBooks, but there's not a lot of clickiness to them. I really like the clicky feel that you get from the MacBook keyboards, but I'm in the minority as lots of butterfly key users have experienced issues and generally don't like it. Both keyboards are also backlit, but it wouldn't be a Razer product without a little bit of RGB going on somewhere, and so the RGB backlit keyboard returns in the Razer Blade Stealth. Unfortunately, for those who want to customize individual keys like in years past, you won't be able to do so with this model, but you can use the Razer Synapse software to customize the colors and the theme of the keyboard lights. It is a bit gimmicky, but I do think it looks pretty cool, especially in the dark. The trackpad is also surprisingly nice to use. You can call me an Apple fanboy if you want, but the Force Touch trackpads found on the newer MacBooks are amazing. I really like them a lot, and I am completely spoiled by it when I test other laptops. The Razer Blade Stealth has a much smaller trackpad in comparison, but it does feel pretty good to use. It's probably one of the better trackpads that I have tested on a non-Apple device. Unlike the MacBooks, you don't have any biometric authentication like a fingerprint sensor, but you do get the inclusion of Windows Hello facial recognition, which is new to this Razer Blade Stealth lineup. You also have regular function keys on the Razer, which is either a positive or negative depending on what your thoughts are on Apple's Touch Bar. There are also speakers flanking each side of the keyboard for both machines. The Razer Blade speakers sound surprisingly good and can get pretty loud, but they're not nearly as good or loud as the MacBook Pro. It's not a knock on Razer, however. I was pleasantly surprised with the audio quality. Finally, moving on to performance, I did expect this machine to perform well considering that it has some pretty good specs inside. The Razer Blade Stealth offers a quad-core 8th gen Intel Core i7 processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and an NVIDIA GeForce MX 150 graphics card. The dedicated graphics model is always a plus, and the MX 150 is a pretty good card, but for the $1,600 price tag or $1,900 for this 4K model, there are other more powerful options out there if you need more performance in that area. With all of that said, performance on the Razer Blade Stealth has been pretty positive so far. I haven't noticed any hiccups or lag during everyday tasks like browsing the web, watching videos, emails, etc. The only time this machine has really truly been put through its paces over the last few days was when I was testing out Adobe Premiere Pro render times and some very light gaming. Now, I'm not a gamer by any means, but I did try it out for this quick first impressions video, and I didn't notice any abundance of drop frames or anything. Everything seemed to operate relatively smoothly and at pretty high frame rates when you put the resolution at 1080p. And when you go into the benchmarks, you'll understand why. From an OpenCL standpoint, running both the Intel Graphics 620 and the GeForce MX 150, results were actually pretty good. You get a 36,488 score for the built-in graphics and a score of 47,237 for the dedicated MX 150 graphics card. In comparison to my 15-inch MacBook Pro from 2018, which is running a Intel 630 graphics card as well as an AMD Radeon Pro 555X dedicated GPU. The built-in graphics card on my MacBook scored roughly 14,000 less than the Razer built-in GPU, coming in with a score of 23,624, but if you go to the 555X, it did edge out the MX 150 found in the Razer Blade Stealth, but by roughly 3,000 with a score of 50,257. Considering the size and the cost of the MacBook Pro, those are some pretty good scores. If we switch over and run Unigen Heaven benchmarks on the Razer Blade Stealth, the only way I was able to run things smoothly at around 60 to 70 frames per second was to drop the quality down to low and set the resolution to 1080p. Otherwise, at high quality with a 4K resolution, the machine struggled to even reach 8 frames per second, and things were a mess. I kind of expected this to be the case, however, but the same could also be said about the MacBook Pro, which with the same low quality and 1080p resolution, it hovered at around 70 frames per second. What was surprising was the MacBook Pro actually did perform a lot better at native resolution and higher quality settings, coming in at around 24 frames per second. It's still not the best, but it was far better than what the Razer Blade was able to offer in this area. One quick side note, battery life has been okay. Obviously, with less graphic intensive tasks like web browsing, emails, and documents, etc., battery life has been right around 6 hours for me. Keep in mind, the battery life will vary depending on display model, and so it is to be expected that the 4K display will use far more power than its 1080p counterpart. This definitely carries over when gaming or video editing, as the laptop can quickly drain in less than 2.5 to 3 hours. Now, even though my thoughts have been overall positive, it's hard for me to recommend this laptop at its current price, knowing that you could technically get more for your money. This theory carries over to Apple products too. You definitely end up paying more, and you sometimes get less performance compared to the other options on the market. If you do like the Apple or Razer brand, however, then you're probably pretty used to this. If you do decide to go the Razer Blade Stealth route, you get a powerful and ultra-portable laptop that's beautifully designed, but right now it's not enough to get me to switch from my MacBook Pro. So let me know your thoughts on the Razer Blade Stealth in the comments section down below. And if there is another laptop out there that you want us to compare to either a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, go ahead and let us know which one in the comments as well. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.